Our Scripps News team of correspondents and analysts are here with me tonight with the facts as we know them at this hour and some perspective in a very serious moment. White House correspondent Haley Bull, national political correspondent Alex Miller, and our constitutional legal analyst Andrew Lieb. Haley, you're at the White House tonight all night. You were asking people, what do you think of this? We did not get anything out of them just yet, which I want to ask you about. But Alex, we know the former president has been legally charged, right? Do we know what he's charged for?
We do not know yet. All we know, per the Manhattan District Attorney, is that he has, in fact, been indicted by this grand jury, which means a majority of the grand jury has decided to indict him. They don't need a unanimous vote. They only needed 13 out of the 23 people to get this indictment. Now, we don't know what the charges look like. We are hearing that there is a felony included, but it is unclear if it's one charge, if it's 10 charges, or if it's more. And so that is really the information that we are looking to find out. We have already reached out to the district attorney's office to try to get that information. Right now, it is completely sealed, and it is only when a judge will unseal it, or if it leaks, of course, that we will know what these charges look like. But we are seemingly butting up against some level of a timeline. If he's going to be arraigned early next week, they have to transport him here, and then, of course, the entire process has to go forward.
Haley, it does not get any bigger than this in American politics or the American legal system. President Biden, is he saying anything?
Chance, it is very quiet from the White House. They are not commenting, and that is really in line with what we've heard from them when they've been pressed on this investigation on the former president. They've really taken the stance that they don't comment on ongoing investigations, and with this news tonight, it's really been no different. We have no expectations of them to weigh in on this tonight, Chance.
Okay, let's bring in constitutional legal analyst Andrew Lieb. Andrew, we've heard a lot of theories about what could be in the final charges, and we will see them soon enough. But given what we do know, because a lot has come out before this, how strong do you think this case is legally?
Well, in the last hour alone, I'm hearing over 30 charges, 30 counts. Some people 30. Are saying 34 counts. I'm hearing that too. Yeah, so it's much more than we even expected. We were thinking maybe we were going to have a business records issue, maybe an election law issue, but 34 counts is what people are saying right now, which blows me away. Very strong.
But do you buy that? We were hearing from Donald Trump he was going to be arrested last Tuesday. So many people have said so many things.
It's so true. We don't actually know because things are sealed. All we do know is that Alvin Bragg has confirmed the indictment. We know that. The Trump team has confirmed the indictment. We do hear that they were talking that Alvin Bragg wanted him to be surrendered tomorrow, that he wanted the arraignment tomorrow, but the Secret Service is saying that as soon as that can happen is next week. That's what we're all hearing, but I got to tell you, the real show is going to start when we get to that arraignment and we learn what the charges are.
Alex, will Donald Trump show up there where you are? You're in Manhattan. You were standing out right outside the courthouse for a week straight to surrender, get fingerprinted, have the mugshot documented. Is that truly expected?
Well, I think that's what's being sorted out right now. The NYPD is having conversations with the Secret Service, who still protects the former president like they do all former presidents. They've never had to go through this. There's no playbook, not only here in New York, but really across the country. We have never seen a situation of this magnitude. It is not only it is a logistical concern, even as much as it is a political concern, a safety concern. They need to get him here from Mar-a-Lago and bring him in right where everybody goes to work. Just to give you a lay of the land of what this area looks like downtown, there are a number of courthouses in this entire area. So it's not just one courthouse, you know, in a small town. There's a lot of people who work in this area. We are not far from Wall Street. The police headquarters are down the street. It is going to be a logistical nightmare to get him in there without having to, you know, close down parts of the street or put up barricades in certain areas. And we've already seen security ebb and flow over the course of the last week as they were worried about protesters as they were less worried, time of day, all those kinds of things. But they're going to have to go through these logistical concerns to try to figure out how to get him in there safely, and then how they're going to proceed. Are they going to fingerprint him? They're going to take a mugshot? Both of those things I feel like are probably very likely. But the real question, is he going to go in handcuffs? Is he going to go into the arraignment in handcuffs? Obviously, there's extenuating circumstances in this situation. This is a former president, right, a candidate. And so there's a lot of discussion that needs to be had, and treat him, you know, like a former president, but also like everybody else.
Which, Haley, that kind of gets to the point of, they're going to say, this is a legal proceeding, do it by the book. But the political implications and magnitude are unmissable here. Does this affect those other investigations underway right now at the DOJ, ultimately presided over by President Biden? He's the boss of Merrick Garland. And those are investigations of a man who could quite possibly be his 2024 opponent again.
Well, when it comes to how it could impact the public opinion, that's going to differ depending on what your political beliefs are. But when we get down to the technical impact, the legal impact, no, these are different investigations, including on different levels. You're looking at state law versus federal law. I spoke with a longtime former Justice Department official who reiterated there is no technical impact on the other investigations. Going on to say that the prosecutors involved, and I'm paraphrasing here, proceed along its own track with the greatest care. So when you're talking legally, no, what we're seeing in New York doesn't have an impact on these other ongoing investigations, Chance.
Andrew, if this does end up being, let's say, even one felony charge, my understanding is, and you're the constitutional attorney, not me, but that it would rest on there being a campaign finance violation. And we've heard that that'd be the best route there if they do that. But Trump could say, prove it. I was trying to protect my family and my business reputation by paying this money. It was not for me to win the White House. How solid is the campaign finance component here?
Chance, the campaign finance component doesn't stand alone. It goes with what's called falsifying a business record. Because you see, Trump didn't pay the money to Stormy Daniels. He didn't even give it to his attorney and say, here, put it in your escrow account and then pay it to Stormy Daniels. Instead, what he did is he paid legal fees, and he grossed up those legal fees. He didn't pay the amount of the extortion that he's saying he had to pay. He paid much more, and he labeled them as legal fees. And that's the big problem here. And then he used that to commit this other crime, this election fraud. Those together, 2 misdemeanors in New York, do equal a felony. It brings it from under a year that he's subject to up to 4 years in jail he could be facing on those 2 charges together alone. And like I said a second ago, we're hearing 34 charges. So I'm thinking there's other things out there that we're going to learn about, like McDougal, and about maybe things like obstruction, where he had the bat with Bragg's head next to it.
But Andrew, I always have to push you when you're on, because then it comes back to that element of prove it. What did we see with impeachment? They had to prove intent in so many things. Donald Trump does not write things down. He does not text people. He doesn't declare, this is why I did it. So how do they prove that his true intent was to do this in service of a campaign rather than his own reputation? He wanted to be in good standing with his wife or Forbes or whoever.
Chance, I would say exactly what you said. And if it was only about having Michael Cohen be the witness, it sounds like a pretty good argument. But then you say to yourself, why was David Pecker called so many times? Particularly, he was the last witness that was called by the DA. David Pecker, to remind you, is the person who ran the National Enquirer. And he did these catch and kill stories for his friends, where he'd pay for a story, pay for the rights, and then just not run it. And you see this McDougal thing that I referenced a little while ago. You see, Trump has a pattern. It's not that he did it once, and it's not just that one person was involved. We also have speculation out there because Weisselberg just changed attorneys. Did Weisselberg flip? We have a lot of questions going on, and like I said, until, you know it, until we hear about that arraignment and we see what these charges are, anyone who's evaluating whether it's political, whether it's legal, they just don't know.
Constitutional attorney Andrew Lieb, Haley Bull covering the White House angle here, and Alex Miller covering the national political angle here, plus the court system. We appreciate it, guys. We'll see you here soon coming up.